Hello, well I'm back. So I've been living in Japan for 3 months now, almost 4 months actually, and it's been great so far. I really love living here. I've found some really cool friends. I've kind of gotten used to the lifestyle here, but there are some things that are just so incredibly annoying. I know on the internet there's a lot of videos about how great Japan is, but obviously there's also some things that are really annoying. You know, things like the lack of trash cans, because there actually literally are no trash cans in Japan. Or also things like, obviously, you know, not being able to read anything because you don't know how to read kanji. But in this video I want to touch upon some things that I've personally experienced to be very, very annoying. So here's my list, I guess. The first thing that absolutely drives me insane is the bikers in Japan. So I live in a rather residential area. There's not a lot of, you know, main streets or big like shopping areas here. There's a lot of families and a lot of houses, and people use their bikes quite a lot. Especially a lot of mothers with their children actually on the back. And what really pisses me off so much is that these bikers are so incredibly reckless. First of all, they are on the sidewalk, not on the street like in any other country. They're on the sidewalk. Sidewalks in Japan are already pretty narrow, so it's happened to me so many times already that I'm just minding my own business, walking on a sidewalk, and a bike just speeds across of me, and it's so dangerous. And also I don't know why this is a thing. And obviously I'm only talking about Tokyo, so maybe it's a bit different in more rural areas, but in Tokyo, no one actually jaywalks. Like, people always wait until the light is green. And that's good, that's great. Even if sometimes it's a bit annoying because there's literally no cars coming, you could just walk. However, apparently that rule doesn't exist for bikes. It feels like sometimes the bikers even wait for the lights to be red for them to cross, because for some reason they really want to like run into all the pedestrians. There's been so many times where I'm trying to cross a street and, you know, I look right, I look left, there's no cars, no one's coming, there's a biker coming, but you know, they're on red, they have to stop. It's just a bike, they can stop. Nope, they will not stop. And it doesn't even matter if there's a bunch of people crossing the street, because then the bike will kind of try to S-line their way through the pedestrians. It's just insane. As you can see, over the past few months, I've accumulated a lot of hatred for bikers. So if you own a bike and you live in Japan, for the love of God, please stay off the sidewalks and wait for green. God, this was only one point and I'm already so riled up, holy fuck. The next thing, God, Nanpa. Being a woman is difficult no matter where you are, and Japan is no exception. So there's this beautiful word in Japan called Nanpa, which essentially stands for, you know, people hitting on you. And as a foreigner specifically, I think a lot of foreign women have gone through this kind of experience. Guys will hit on you quite a lot. There's really been a time where I'm walking through, you know, the streets of some kind of crowded city area by myself, and guys have not tried to talk to me. Most of the time, a guy will just come up to you and ask you, where are you from? You know, either in English or in Japanese, or they will ask you if you want to have a drink with them. And usually it's kind of harmless, but at the same time, it's really fucking creepy, because sometimes they will just follow you around for a while, and that's not fun. And so, yeah, the fact that this happens so frequently is just, it's fucked up. It really is a testament to society in Japan and how it still is built upon a lot of misogynistic values. And I really hope that this is gonna get better within, you know, the next few decades, but I highly doubt it. So if you're a woman in Japan, just, you know, watch out. Try to not walk around alone too much. I want to feel safe enough to go outside by myself, but I kind of have to understand that, yes, if I don't speed walk my way through cross sections and stuff like that, some guy will probably come up to me and want to talk to me. Actually, if you guys want to know some of my craziest Nanpa stories, leave a comment and maybe I'll make a video about it sometime. Next up, earlier I've talked about how bikers are like going at crazy speeds on the sidewalk. Well, there's also the opposite problem. Slow ass walkers. I've never lived in a place before that has been as crowded as Tokyo is, and you know, because I have to go to school at 9 in the morning, which is rush hour, and I have to get back home at like 6, which is also rush hour, I get on a lot of crowded trains. And I think the biggest pet peeve of mine so far living in Japan really is people who walk incredibly slowly. You know how in Japan, when you go up or down an escalator, you walk on the right side and you stand on the left side. Most people usually stand on the left side, but you know, I usually go on the right because I hate waiting around and I want to just kind of go from A to B as quickly as possible. Well, some people, you know, they don't really comply with that. They just stand. And no, it's not tourists. There have not been any tourists in the past 3 months of me living here. They only just recently opened up the borders again. It's usually like Japanese people who just cannot be fucked. And If it was just that, okay, sure, I can deal with standing on an escalator for some time, but the worst part about it is really just when people walk so incredibly slowly, especially getting off the escalator. So I commute through Shinjuku Station almost every day, which is like the biggest, I think, train station in the world, and it is definitely a huge pain in the ass. But what makes it even worse is that when I try to get from one train to the other, I usually, go up a few escalators, and whenever I'm in a hurry because I'm trying to catch a train, there's usually like one person in front of me who is just walking up the escalator without a single care in the world, especially when my train is standing right there and about to depart. And I've been in this situation so many times where I'm trying to run up the escalator and there's one person in front of me, and because they're not hurrying up, or because they're just walking in a super, super slow speed, I miss the train right by that 1 second, and it's just infuriating. I know the trains come like every 3 minutes or so, but for me, if I see a train depart right in front of my face, I just, And I'd be okay if it's like, elderly people, because I understand, I totally get it, or people who have some kind of, injured leg or something, but usually it's just people on their phones. And that's what makes it so much worse if you're walking around constantly on your phone, and because, you can't run on your phone, you are literally bothering everyone. And obviously, I sometimes look at my phone too when I'm walking, but when I'm in a very crowded area, can you just put the phone away for like a second, please? Yeah, I guess this video is just a huge pity party, isn't it? Oh well. As we're just talking about trains, obviously there's a lot of fun things about Japanese trains. I mean, I love Japanese trains. They're always on time, they're super clean, there's a lot of like seating area, and it's just always organized. However, some of the rules with the trains are really crazy to me. For example, how is it more inappropriate to get on a phone call and talk to someone with a tiny, tiny, tiny voice than to literally pass out in your seat and lean your head towards the poor person who's sitting next to you? God, this has happened to me so many times, where someone next to me passes out and just, abuses me as their pillow. And this is not something that I've ever experienced anywhere else, ever. Like, if you're falling asleep on the person next to you, don't you just feel like, maybe I should try to stay awake so I don't do that, because I will be a huge, huge bother to them? You'd think that, but apparently it's very, very common here, and people are very tired. They try to get as much sleep as they can with, how much they're working, and I understand that. Please just don't do it on the train. I really did not ask for unconsensual cuddling at 8:30 in the morning on a train. So far I've gone through people who are too slow, too fast, too sleepy. Let's talk about those who are too fucking loud. Living in Japan, there's, a lot of things that you will see that don't really exist anywhere else, or at least, in the places that I've been, they have not existed. One of those things is those cars or trucks that, just go through very densely populated and frequented areas throughout the day, at night, whenever it is, and blast, and I mean blast, music or speeches out of some kind of speaker. It's actually insane. So those things are called campaigning cars, from what I understand, and usually they will either be for some kind of political agenda, like some politician trying to get their word out, and sometimes it is, like idol bands or even host clubs trying to advertise. And I kid you not, whenever one of these cars or trucks goes by me, I have to actually hold my ears because it's so loud. Obviously, they're trying to reach a lot of people and they need to be loud and stuff like that, but shouldn't that kind of thing be illegal? Like, that is absolutely 100% noise pollution. I don't know, living in Tokyo is already so much overstimulation with all the lights and all the sounds and all the people all the time, so I really don't need some car passing me by, blaring into my ear. Those things just should not exist. Oh God, I realized I haven't talked about like food etiquette at all. The way that people behave while eating is very different than how other people in other parts of the world do it. But that's largely fine, everyone can mind their own business. One thing that I really hate though about restaurant culture is that they don't actually give you napkins. Usually in Japanese restaurants, you do get like these little wet napkins called oshibori, and those are great. However, I would also like to just have, like a paper napkin or something to use after I eat. In pretty much most restaurants, all you get are these like weird plasticky feeling napkins they're not even classified. I wouldn't even classify them as napkins. It weirdly just feels like I'm cleaning my hands on like a food wrapper, and I really hate it. And I really don't know why they're using this kind of material. Maybe it's cheaper to produce, or it's better for the environment, whatever it is, Sure, there's a reason, but I just really hate it. I just want paper napkins, please. God, I've been complaining so much about small things, so let's talk about one big thing that is, you know, a bit more larger scale that is really annoying to me in Japan. And that is social pressure. Social pressure in Japan is just intense. If you're used to some more liberal parts of the world, like I'm from, you know, Central Europe, where you can pretty much do whatever you want. Although there's like traditions and societally, morally, you know, defined rules in other parts of the world as well, Japan just really takes it to a new level. Like right now, for example, one of the big social pressure topics in Japan is wearing masks. And don't get me wrong, I wear a mask every day and I am happy that people are looking out for each other's health here. However, it gets to a point where it's a bit excessive. As I said, I live in a very residential area, and usually when I, you know, walk to the station, for most of the walk, I don't encounter anyone, so I have my mask off. I'm outside, I'm just walking to the station. But as soon as I see a person, even just like from like 50 meters away, I immediately put my mask on because I feel bad for even just crossing their path without a mask on. In secluded or crowded areas, yes, absolutely, no doubt about it. Masks are great. But outside, where there's literally no one else, if you're not wearing a mask, you're kind of seen as someone who disrupts the peace. And I have a bit of a difficult time understanding that. But it's not just that, obviously. A thing that I've personally, as a woman, become a lot more aware of ever since I moved here is just how modestly people dress themselves. So I like wearing crop tops. I'm wearing one right now. And it definitely is one of those things where whenever I go outside in a crop top, I feel like people are really judging me. It's not just the stares, but it's also just the fact that no one around me is showing off any kind of skin apart from their legs, because apparently for women, legs are totally fine to show, but everything else is kind of like, no. And I'm just not really used to that kind of thing because I never really worried about how much skin I show, since I thankfully grew up in a very liberal environment. However, in Japan, it's just really difficult to go outside just wearing whatever I want and feel like I'm accepted for that. It's just not really a thing. Obviously, no one's ever come up to me and told me, hey, you should cover up, because I don't think anyone would want to be that confrontational. But I can definitely feel the social pressure of wanting to, you know, dress a bit more modestly and not stand out as much as I do sometimes. So that is definitely one of the downsides. And there's obviously a lot of different things that have social pressure on them in Japan. But those are just a few of the examples that I find very, very annoying and infuriating about living in Japan. And by the way, I still very, very much love living in Japan. I'm super happy here. I love the country, and I'm definitely gonna stay here for a long time. I do also think it is important to voice the irritations and, you know, annoyances that people have with living here, because I think that's the only way we can really improve and develop as a society. And if you're saying something like, well, if you don't like it, then you should just leave, go touch some grass. No place is perfect. Literally every country in the world has its problems, and Japan is not an exception. And I think it's important to kind of, you know, think about the things that annoy us and recognize how we can maybe improve them as a society, because that's really the only way we can develop. So I hope this video helped you get a bit of a more nuanced view on how the dreamland of ramen actually is when you live there for a while. But I still think Japan is amazing, and if you want to hear more about my life in Japan, make sure to subscribe and maybe watch this video, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.